All right, so describe the importance of the diet of worms, 1521. The diet of worms, diet of worms. What is that? Is that a phone? I don't know. If that's someone's phone, you can go up and silence it. It's not a big deal. Sounds like smashed glass. Yeah, okay. All right. Strange noise from the phone. What's that? Possibility, yeah. You guys need another minute? Okay, one more minute here. Yeah. Yeah. Talk them into it, man. All right, okay, so talk about Martin Luther. What do we know about Martin Luther? What do you know about? Oh, come on. You know about Martin Luther. Wyatt, go ahead. Thank you.
Give me 3 seconds. I can check what the number was.
3 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. Both the 95 thesis.
Oh.
I don't know, say it right, but basically, he was opposing how the church was dealing with sending people to heaven.
Yeah, good job, good job. So we talked about Martin Luther and his 95 Theses, which means his arguments, right? His arguments against the Catholic Church. And we talked before that what led to Martin Luther to challenge the church. And we talked about Johann Tetzel, right? We mentioned about his quotes. What about his quotes? What was he trying to do? What was he trying to get from the people? What?
he was trying to show them like that they're not doing it how God wants them.
Okay.
They're going away from the Bible and more towards like paying for it.
All right, yeah, so if they want to seek salvation, if they want their sins forgiven, the only way they can do that is through paying up, right? And those quotes that we talked about and reviewed yesterday and we talked on Friday about, that indicates a little bit about what the position of the Catholic Church was and how they didn't really care about good moral values, good ethics. And it just showed a little bit about the corruption of the leaders of the Catholic Church at this time and how it got out of hand, right? And what was the term detailing about giving money to seek this salvation? What was that term called again? The Catholic Church, these religious hierarchy would impose on the people. Indulgences. Yeah, good job. So these indulgences, okay, was a way to try to have a firm grasp over the control of the people. Utilize fear to advance the power, the wealth of the church. All right, good job, good job. So again, we talked about that corruption leading up to it. We also mentioned about the Renaissance period and how humanism, what does humanism mean again? What does that mean? Alana, go ahead. What's that? Yeah, yeah, good job, good job. So more understanding of the human mind, right? Human experience, human interaction, focusing on education, solving things on your own, rather than just listening to what the corrupt church has to say. So yeah, through this time period of humanism, we see a separation from the church already. And to try to make sure that that bond's a little bit more protected, we see these indulgences. We see the corrupt leadership of the church. And we talk quite a bit about how many of these leaders were hypocrites, right? They would tell the population, the people, one thing to follow, and they would do the exact opposite. And like I was saying, I don't know if I said this example yesterday, but I have you guys all put your phones up in the chart. Would it be fair if I was up here and was just sitting here texting on my phone right in front of you? No, not at all. And you wouldn't really have a respect for me then. You wouldn't have any type of trust for me. And rightfully so, rightfully so. That would be kind of hypocritical. But this is exactly what's going on, but on larger scales, obviously, during the Renaissance period, moving into what we know as the Reformation. So knowing all this and understanding all this here, so Martin Luther, he has these 95 theses, he nails it up onto the door of the Catholic Church, and he explains a little bit about his arguments, his problems with the church, and what invention allowed for his ideas to spread all throughout Europe and all throughout to make sure that this knowledge, this understanding, these arguments are focused. Paul? Yeah, the printing press. Yeah, good job. So without the printing press, who knows if the Reformation would have happened? Who knows? And I think it's interesting to note that. All right, so the Diet of Worms. What was going on here at the Diet of Worms? What was it, Chris? Go ahead.
The Diet of Worms was a trial in which Martin Luther was judged for his challenge against the Catholic Church.
Good.
Previous to this moment, Martin had been excommunicated from the Catholic Church, and at the trial, he was threatened with execution if nonetheless preaching the trial. Martin Luther stood strong in his faith and refused to do what the Pope said. Soon after this, the Catholics tried to have him assassinated, but it was the Catholic leaders rescued him and kept him executed for the next year.
Awesome, good job. Do you remember his name? I remember his name. Go ahead, Paul. Frederick the Wise. Yeah, good job. So with Martin Luther, he's explaining to the Catholic Church, the Pope Charles V, he's saying, listen, we shouldn't be just following these corrupt religious leaders. That is not the will of God, right? The only teachings, the only understanding of our religion, Christianity, should come directly from what? We should interpret religion, Christianity through this, rather than the corrupt leaders of the church. Chris? Yes, the Bible. Good job, the Bible. He's saying we need to focus on the scripture. We need to focus on, someone's phone can just silence it. But anyway, you can focus more on the Bible, on the scripture, rather than just what these corrupt leaders have to say. We don't need to glorify these leaders. Okay, they're leading us in a wrong, unjust situation and a path. So with the Diet of Worms, he calls out the Catholic Church right in front of him, right? And with that, obviously the church views him as a what? Views him as a what? I guess I should have had this as a term. Partner. A heretic. Yep, good job. So one that's challenging the direct power of the church. And again, Frederick the Wise, he seeks refuge with him. And Frederick the Wise protects him from the Catholic Church so that he doesn't get killed, right? So he doesn't get executed. And in return, Martin Luther translates the Bible in German, right? And obviously, this is going to be utilized with the printing press to spread these ideas of Christianity and try to establish a sense of Christianity through Luther's ideas, through Luther's mind, to the people. And overall, this is going to build a unified Central Europe. A lot of these kingdoms are going to start challenging the church. And yesterday we talked about a few of these people that come up with their own perspectives of Christianity. Anybody remember who we talked about? One was focused on predestination. What was his name? Matt.
John Calvin.
John Calvin. Good job. So the Calvinists, right? And he came up with somewhat of a theocracy, meaning a set of laws, a set of rules that this religion, these religious leaders need to follow up. So we don't make the same mistake as the Catholic Church. All right, good. Who else? Paul?
Probably gonna bet you all the way.
Zwingli. Yeah, good job. And again, he was focused really on the same mindset of Luther. Okay, the only thing that they had somewhat of an argument about was the interpretation of the Last Supper. All right, good, good. But again, this is showing that there's factions breaking off of the Catholic Church. It's showing that the Catholic Church is not near as strong as it once was. And I think that's important to note. I think that's important to talk about. And yesterday, I didn't get through the last slide here. I wanted to talk about the Peace of Augsburg real quick before we move to the vocab for today. There we go. Yeah, so we talked about John Calvin already, and we talked about Zwingli, right? Again, these are just forms of Christianity, different perspectives, and trying to correct the idea of the Catholic Church, more of a Protestant viewpoint. Okay, and with the Peace of Augsburg, right? This is a unity, a confederation in a way for many of these states within Germany, within Central Europe, to come together and to challenge the direct authority of Charles V and the Holy Roman Empire. So I think this is interesting to talk about because with Augsburg, this is finally breaking apart the power of the church. For hundreds of years, when we talked about the Crusades, the Catholic Church had a strong control of Europe, right? We mentioned that quite a bit. But now we see the corruption leading finally to its downfall and how the Reformation is going to build different perspectives, different views of Christianity all throughout Europe. Like I mentioned already with the Calvinists, with Lutheranism. We're going to talk about Anabaptists today, Anglican Church, you name it. So the Peace of Augsburg, this is a group of these kingdoms coming together and breaking apart the power of the Catholic Church and forming these new perspectives, really, and of Christianity. One thing to note too is this is allowing these kingdoms to choose what religion they would want to embrace, what they would want established in their kingdoms. So with the Catholic Church, they're realizing that their power is dwindling. They're losing a lot of control, specifically up in modern day Germany. And these kingdoms now get to choose what religion they would represent. All right, like I said yesterday, here's the map I wanted to show you. Many of these viewpoints of Christianity that start to emerge and pop up all throughout Europe. So like I said yesterday, you see the Lutherans, right, in here as it's spreading pretty much all throughout Central Europe, into Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and there's spots obviously surrounding these areas here, moving all the way down to southeastern Europe. And you have the Anglicans, that's more focused here in England. We're going to talk about that today. And then you have the Calvinists, we just talked about John Calvin. What is predestination? What does that mean? Predestination. Go ahead, Lana. Yeah, good job. Good job. So yeah, with that already before you're born, God already knows who's going to heaven or who's going to be damned in hell. And a lot of people critique that viewpoint just because, well, It's like, what about the good moral ethics that you can have here on earth, right? Doesn't that determine your salvation? And that's a lot of drawbacks to the Calvinist form of religion. But he did bring a sense of structure when it comes to rules and laws that is important, that is detailed, that's expressed. All right, so today we're going to talk about the English Reformation. Okay, and like I mentioned with a lot of these leaders here since the Peace of Augsburg, these leaders, as they're coming into power, they get to choose what type of religion they would represent for the kingdom. So you can only imagine being a part of this kingdom. Obviously, you're not going to live too long, comparable to some of these kings, I guess you would say, or queens. But with that, there's a constant change of religion, and that's only going to lead to, obviously, uncertainty and people to be a little bit confused of what type of religion they're going to be focused on. So we're going to talk a little bit about the War of the Roses here with the vocab, and then I want to move on and talk about Henry VIII. I see we're running kind of low on time here, but it is what it is. But here are your terms for today. We got the Wars of the Roses, Henry VIII, and the Act of Supremacy in 1534. Someone can silence that. You're not going to get in trouble. Okay, no one's stepping up. I was going to say, this is getting a little crazy.
Let's light illumination.
All right, stand up there, and then next time you hear it, dive on.
Yup.
Okay?
I'm making sure it's not mine first. Oh, mine's inside.
Oh, it's Paul, okay, it's Paul.
Ah.
Here.
It-
Smashing
I like
glass.
when they move on.
I thought I can't read it.
Oh, yeah, anyways, you can check notifications, last one.
Oh, geez, don't go that far. That's
Nothing.
private property.
Anyone
Alright,
care if I
okay.
look?
All right, so we gotta go over
No-
this,
nobody
guys, because I want to
cares?
get you on the reading, about Henry VIII here. The Wars of the Roses, what do we have? What do we have for Wars of the Roses? Go on, go ahead. Yeah, good job. So you have one side, which is represented by a red rose. What was the red rose family? What was the name of it? It's a city down not too far from here in Pennsylvania. Actually, both cities. Amelia. Lancaster, yeah, good job. So whenever you go to Lancaster, you'll see that they call it the Red Rose City. And it's actually named after this family within England, which I think is interesting to talk about. It's not too far from here. We named the city after this family. Well, the Lancasters, they're the Red Rose family. And after the death of Edward, King Edward, this was really up in the air. It was, what family is going to lead the rightful, obviously, place to the throne? And then you have another side of the family, which was what? They're indicated by the White Rose family. This is also the White Rose City in PA. Honor. York, yes, good job. So you have a bitter rivalry for the throne. And like I mentioned, what the video stated at the start of class, this was a constant fight for the throne. And obviously it influenced the book, Game of Thrones, and what you guys know, maybe that today with the series. And I think it's interesting. It just goes to show really the bitter rivalry for power, for control. And it really ends with Lancaster's winning, okay, the Red Rose family, but it was from an opposite effect. It was from one of the family members being really out of it for a while. Okay, so as the Tudor family comes into power, they unite with the Lancasters and even the Yorks to bring the families together and the Wars of the Roses. So these wars lasted really over 30, 40 years. And this was a bitter fight, a bitter civil war for the throne. And this leads us right into Henry VIII. Okay, what do we have for Henry VIII? Caroline, go ahead. You can talk about it. Quite a bit, huh?
Born April 22nd, 1509, was president for 6 marriages and has along with being the first king to execute someone by boiling.
Oh, geez.
And
Okay.
his wives were Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Catherine Howard, and Catherine Vaughan.
All right, good, good, good. So Henry VIII, known for his
He
6
was
wives. Huh?
He was bald.
He's bald.
He killed 2 of them.
Calm down now. For his 6 wives. And yes, he would behead, he would kill 2 of his wives. And he was in search for a rightful heir, a son to the throne. Okay? And that was his goal. And that's where he had a divorce with his first wife. And the Catholic Church didn't want to recognize it. So what do you think he did? As the Catholic Church said, no, you just can't, divorce your wife here because you want a new wife to have a boy with. Go ahead, Chris.
He claimed that he basically followed Martin Luther's teachings, that he didn't agree with the Catholic Church, so he branched off for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's one of those interesting things where he was at first aligned with the Catholic Church. He was with, the Holy Roman Empire, the Catholic Church. But when it came to the situation where he wanted to try to have a son with a new wife, that the Catholic Church, the Pope said, nope, we're not going to grant you that annulment, that divorce. And Henry VIII decided, well, I'm going to take it in my own hands. Yeah, I'm going to try to break away from the Catholic Church. And that happens here through the Act of Supremacy, 1534. He breaks away from the Catholic Church and he starts this Church of England, okay, an Anglican church. And this is really causing a split from the Catholic Church, which is going to cause many of these kings, queens to follow to represent their values through their religious ideology. Remember, through the Peace of Augsburg, this allowed these kings to choose what religion they want to represent. Like I mentioned, this is only going to cause more chaos, more anarchy moving forward. Go ahead, Caroline.
Catherine of Aragon was also his brother's wife.
Yes, yes, he was interested in that. Wild man, wild man. Anyway, so the crazy life of Henry VIII, we'll talk about that here soon. I want you guys, though, to read through this section here within your textbook, which you can find right here. So you just go to chapter 2, Renaissance, Reformation in the first global age. You click on that, and then I'd like you to scroll down to the textbook chapters, Renaissance and Reformation chapter. And then once you click on that, it'll bring you up to the chapter. I'd like you to go to page 179 and start with the Reformation in England. So we're going to start and we're going to read a little bit here through Henry VIII, okay, his life, his crazy life. And again, known for his 6 wives and actually beheading 2 of them in his search for a rightful heir to the throne, his son. So you're going to read through the Reformation in England. I'd like you to take notes down here, guys, as you're reading through. I think that's important. And you're going to finish. I'd like you to stop here right before you get to the effects on the role of women on page 181. So check out the map, right? Check out the connections, past to present. Well, there's a lot of Amish here. Obviously, we know the Amish. Okay, very local. So there you go. You can make a connection there. All right, so I'd like you guys to start with that. Take notes as you're reading through it. And then tomorrow, we will review over this information. We'll talk about it and then move on.
179.
179, the Reformation in England. Look at that nice picture of Henry VIII. Doesn't he look? Yeah. What's up, Chris?
Where does he find the textbook?
All right, you go to modules. At the very top, you click on that first page there.
It's him.
There you go. And then you go to the bottom, Reformation and Renaissance chapter. Should have said right there. There you go. And it should bring it up.
I don't know, I'm gonna call Ozzy.
179.
How much do?
There you go, Parker.
I'm gonna call him.
So again, guys, take notes as you're reading through this part of the book. There you go.
Where do you put this at?
What's that? On 181, right before, I think it's the effects on women.
Haven't read it. It's too much for me. Get it right off. Haven't read
The end of
it.
building game.
It's too much.
No, I got asked, and I got to go pay.
Paint?
Yeah.
What do you have to paint?
So once I'm really friends with the Facebook, it is like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to take that, but the dude's back over to the.
You say 79?
So we just like one part on like.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, pretty close.
It was a blowout of the game, so.
Well, Jordan got hurt in the second half, so, I mean, the second quarter. so-
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
He got back going into the- and then the fight broke out.
oh my. All right, guys, like I said, make sure you're writing notes down here as you're reading through this section. We will talk about this tomorrow. Henry VIII, okay, continuing the English Reformation.